Hey, Devin, man, good to meet you. Appreciate the time.
No, no problem.
Hey, I am actually pretty good friends with a guy that you went to college with and played in the pros, Logan Ryan. Like that's like my dude. Like whenever you are, I mean, when you're in college and you and Logan, you guys played together for how many years?
Just 1 year. Logue was there my last year.
And so, did you guys both feel like you had the skills to play at the next level? And do you talk about that as guys who are like projected to go to the next level?
I mean, I didn't when I first got to school, but by the time Logan was there, yeah, I knew my brother was already in the NFL. But Logue came in as like a four-star recruit, so it was actually pretty cool. I moved my seat back in the meeting to sit between Logan and another corner we had to try to teach them everything I knew in my last year before leaving.
So, whenever you get up and you guys are both Rutgers guys, do you try to is he receptive to learning than what you have just learned, or does every rookie kind of got to learn themselves the hard way?
Nah, Logue was really good. When he came in as a freshman, he was like, man, like teach me everything you know. And then obviously fast forward, he came to New England the same way. And then it was cool for me to see once he left New England, like he became that guy for all of his other teammates, the leader, the kind of example to set, for everybody in the defensive room. So it was really cool to see him do that.
A few months ago, I was down at his house and he's got a pickleball court like right out in the middle of everything. And he likes to dominate people at pickleball now because he had to find that outlet. What is your athletic outlet now that you will train or beat people in to feel good?
Just really working out. I'll go down in the basement and work out, and I'll still do stuff like that. But other than that, on vacation, you know what we'll do? We'll play pool volleyball. And my wife got mad because I cut her off the team when we are in Mexico and picked up a free agent. It was critical to our team's success, and I told her she'll understand because when I win, she wins. But she she wasn't too happy.
When you were a kid, were you ultra competitive?
Yeah, when you grow up with a twin, like we were competitive and like we would play basketball and not keep score and legit would play basketball one-on-one outside for 3 hours. Or we play video games nonstop until my mom told us either we turned off the video game or she was gonna break the whole thing. We would just go at it. And as much as we went at it one-on-one, usually behind closed door with just us, we would be each other's biggest teammates. But from that standpoint, I think it kind of built the foundation of never really letting someone be better than you and out competing them in everything we did because you just naturally had a competitor with you in everything that you would pick up and do.
When I think about you, obviously, I think about the Patriots, and I wonder, as a guy who played at such a high level, won Super Bowls, when you have a season like this season with the Patriots, and you love them, you were a part of them, and it's hard to root against your team, but you also know that if your team loses, you'll have better draft picks. Like, where do you fall with your love for the team and also your love for your team getting better? Because sometimes they don't match.
Yeah, man, it's hard, and I think the biggest thing you want when you're looking at a team that you're a fan of is you want the foundation to be set. And I think for the Patriots, you're trying to establish that this year. And I know it's been so much back and forth of the expectations and what people want. And I think for me coming into this season, I'm like, if this team wins 5 or 6 games, that to me would have been a success story because where they were last year, everything that kind of transpired, and then the season starts and they lose some key guys to injuries. They're struggling. I think the key is you start to look ahead. You look to see, all right, who's in a draft that might help this team? How can they get better in multiple places? Is it trading back and getting, five players instead of getting two players? They're really trying to figure it out. And I think the cool thing is doing the football stuff is I follow the Patriots, but I don't get to be like fully indulged in just the Patriots, trying to watch every other team and then honestly watching the good teams. And right now, my guys up in New England are not one of the good teams that you need to be watching week after week, but it's fun. Now I get to watch their journey with a lot of my friends leading it and seeing what they're able to do. So it's been a journey this year, not a fun one to watch though.
So maybe not a fun one to watch either, but you are a professional. Do you root against the Chiefs because you don't want them to out dynasty you?
I actually don't. I think it's unique to be able to watch a team do so many different things. And it's fun for me every week to go on and compare some of the things that they're doing to what we were able to do in all of the years I was on the Patriots. The ability to win games so many different ways, but also to win games and be talked about of not winning by enough. Like I've watched some sports things and they'll pull up and they're like the Chiefs points differential isn't high enough to make them one of the better teams in the league. I'm like, who, like, you think the Chiefs care about how many points they win by? To me, they're the most feared team in the league. Like, no one wants to play them in the playoffs. But I honestly, for one, it gives me something to talk about. It gives me a reason to have a job because of what we were able to do, and it gives me a platform to talk about it and compare it. So I'm not one of those guys. I think history and what you're able to do, it's meant to be broken or meant to be mentioned with other people. And watching what the Chiefs are able to do are able to do right now has been a lot of fun. I don't see it as like how do we continue to elevate our voices by being done. And I know like the undefeated Dolphins team toast every year when the team loses. That's been undefeated throughout the season. But for me, no, I think what they're doing is it's awesome to see and fun to break down. They're defying all odds.
Speaking of things that have just been fun to talk about, we can go either New York team. So let's go Jets first. I don't know, even know where to start. We can go Rodgers. We can go Saleh, who is now, over there working with the Pack. Like, what is happening with the Jets, and what in the world can they do to be good in the next few years?
Isn't it funny though? We talked about the Jets and we were like, so many people were like, Saleh, he's the problem. Get rid of Saleh. This team was bad before, but when Robert Saleh was fired, they were one win going into a Monday night game against Buffalo from being the division leaders. Since he's been fired, this whole thing has went even more downhill. And I know I live in New Jersey, so what people say and all of that stuff they are all over. This has nothing to do with Salah, but you got to give the guy some credit. That people think he was a poor leader and all of this. This team looks terrible now, and to me, it just shines a light on what we see throughout the NFL a lot of times is the head coach, the general manager, they don't get to make the ultimate decisions. It's the owner. And Woody Johnson has put himself back in kind of the spotlight of, hey, we're going to get rid of Salah. We're going to get rid of Douglas. Hey, and by the way, I was the guy I wanted to bench Aaron Rodgers right around week 4. So this team to me is a disaster. And I was just on Pro Football Talk with Mike Florio, and his thing is you fire Mike Tannenbaum years ago, and now you hire Mike Tannenbaum's media company to help you put out the head coach and general manager search and figure out how that's all going to work out. It just makes no sense. It seems like the Jets, and it's sad to say because I think they have one of the best fan bases in the NFL of people just wanting to support and waiting for this team to do well. And they all thought last year was a year you go get Aaron Rodgers, everything's supposed to take care of itself. He gets hurt. He comes back this year, and it's even worse. Like to think about how this team could get any worse is, I mean, it's crazy. But I think for this team, it'll be attractive to general managers and head coaches because they have a lot of talent. The thing they have to figure out is, does anyone want to come in and work under Woody Johnson right now? Like that is the issue. But you pay guys well enough to, and they're well compensated. They'll come in and do their job and try to figure it out. But there's a good amount of talent on this Jets team. They got to figure out what they're going to do at quarterback next year. Is it going to be Aaron Rodgers? Are they going to move on? But in some other places, you look at Breece Hall, you look at Garrett Wilson, you look at the guys on this defense, they have talent. They just can never figure out how to get this ship pointed in the right direction. And it's plagued this franchise for years. And just seems like you're still scratching your head and wondering where will this thing go and when will they ever get it figured out?
Who would you rather coach under, Woody Johnson or Jerry Jones?
I, I think Jerry Jones. I think Jerry Jones from the standpoint of he's done really well in the draft. The Cowboys have. Like when you look at the guys they draft, they have talent. And I think one of the biggest things that'll stick out is they have a quarterback. Dak Prescott is there. So if I'm going to go and have to deal with an owner, I think I'm going to go deal with Jerry Jones, who at least will be front and center, taking questions, saying, hey, the general manager is not going anywhere because I'm the general manager. I'm not firing me. But if you want to criticize somebody on what free agents we have, how the team's been built, I'm Jerry Jones. I'm the general manager. Like, I'd rather deal with that than somebody pulling me into the office and saying, do this, do that, do this. And then it all coming down on me. No, like if we're in this together and you're going to be making decisions, go out there and make the decision. I might not like it or agree with it, but at least it's your decision and it's known to everybody rather than me having to be the guy that's pulling the string. Well, not pulling the strings, but actually having my strings pulled in different directions. I'd rather not have to go through that one.
This will be pure speculation on your part, but they just agreed to pay Dak $50 million a year. Any chance they move on from Dak if they're able to have that 1, 2, or 3 draft pick? And, Shedeur Sanders is one, Cam Ward is. I mean, would the Cowboys do that? Any chance?
It would be hard. I think like when you first sign a contract, like the amount of money that they would lose and they would have to eat and guarantees and cap and dead cap and all of that stuff. However, all of those numbers get worked out. It's above my pay grade. But once you figure all that in, I don't think there's a way that they can, get rid of Dak Prescott this year. The interesting thing will be if they get a chance, do they try to draft a guy that they see for the future? If there's a guy who falls in the draft or something like that, and falls at the end of the first round and they trade back up in the first round. Do they do something like that, like we saw Green Bay do when they drafted Jordan Love in the later rounds? I think it was 23rd when they drafted him with that pick. It was kind of like, okay, we're drafting the successor to Aaron Rodgers. Now, obviously, it created a storm in Green Bay drafting him, but I think that will be an interesting thing. But the problem with that is it shows a dysfunction. You just pay a guy all that money and then you draft a guy for the future. It doesn't make much sense. But I think when you talk about the Cowboys and you talk about the Jets, like I don't think it has to make sense. They could easily do something like that and none of us would be surprised.
I mean, Atlanta kind of just did that, right, with Cousins.
Yep.
And then, I mean, even if you look back at Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love, like Rodgers got all pissy when they drafted Jordan Love. So it has been done, and I would say the Packers are actually a team we expect to win. The Falcons maybe not so much. But, yeah, I mean, after all that and making Dak wait in the last minute, $50 million a year, and then drafting another quarterback. But that would be – that. I don't know. Eddie, you're a Cowboys fan. How would you feel about that?
I mean, I like it because we're not doing anything right now anyway, but I feel like if I were Dak, I wouldn't like that one bit.
You ever get drafted?
And that's the – I was just going to say, and that's the thing with the Cowboys. Like, is this move going to make you a better football team and win? Probably not, but is the move going to get you talked about on every network every single day of the week? Yeah, it's definitely going to do it. And we've seen over the last 20-something years, that has seemed to be one of the main things the Cowboys look for. They make a ton of money because they're always talked about. They're America's team, all of that. I don't know if winning is as important to the Cowboys as everyone thinks it is, especially their fan base. I think their fan base thinks winning is important, but I'm not sure inside that building and the higher ups offices if they care as much about winning or selling tickets or merchandise.
You ever get drafted behind, meaning they drafted on the DB, maybe not to replace you, but you felt like, dang, they just drafted somebody up and spent a good pick on them to play my position. How did that feel to you?
Man, every year you're watching the draft and everybody thinks that you're watching to see who you get to make you better. Now you're just trying to see, are they trying to get me out of the door? Are they finding my replacement? Are they going younger? Like that's what guys watch the draft about. So yeah, there was plenty of times there were guys being drafted in the DB room and I would be like, all right, like I got to go. Even my guys from Rutgers, when Logan Ryan and Deron Harmon got drafted in the 3rd round, like I knew those guys personally. I knew they were smart, tough, good football players. I'm like, I gotta get going. I gotta make sure I stay young and I continue to grind in the offseason because every year teams are trying to get younger. And then especially as you get to the second contract and you're making more money, if they can find a guy that's just, maybe not as good as you right now, but eventually they think will be better, you can seal it. Like they're gonna get rid of you, they're gonna move on. So every year in the NFL, it's a fight for older guys to stay young and try to keep your job. So I'm sure, I don't think Kirk Cousins was happy. It kind of came out a little bit this year, but he signed to Atlanta and then you draft Michael Penix Jr. And I know right now they seem to be in a good spot because of the wins they banked earlier in the season, but they haven't been playing their best ball. So if they fall out of playoff contention, like there's no saying, they don't say, hey, let's start this Michael Penix journey earlier than later. So you can't control it. And one thing I've always done is I've always tried to be a great teammate to all the younger guys, because their job is to come in and take your job. They want to do the same thing you were able to do when you were a young guy. So the thing is, as a player, you got to go be better. You can't get mad. And you've heard stories of veterans withholding information or not helping guys and different things like that. That, to me, that never works out. That young guy's better than you. Eventually, he's going to figure it out. He's going to take your spot. You're not helping the cause by just being an a-hole to him. You might as well help the guy out and pass on what guys did before you as well.
Jameis Winston is very much a TikTok quarterback in that he's just funny in clips. Like, I love watching Jameis in clips on TikTok, post-game, during game. The clip of him going, somebody jump off sides, come on, and he's like screaming at the line. Like, Jameis seems like a guy that everybody in the locker room likes. Like, who was that? And it could be a quarterback you played against or one that was on your team that was just so freaking lovable. It was lovable.
Well, one, I'll say this too about Jameis. What would happen if Cleveland's season if they would have put Jameis in earlier? Not to say he's the greatest thing ever, but you just said it. The energy, the way the team reacts to him, it just seems like that would have taken off and helped this Browns team. But I'll name two. One of the guys that I loved playing against was Phillip Rivers. Never cursed on the field, talked trash all the time. But here you had this guy who had like 8 or 9 kids, and he never cursed. It's like, how do you not get that mad from when you go from at home yelling at kids all day, then guys are chasing you, hitting you, and you still don't curse? It was so impressive to see. Like, he was that guy. And one of the other guys, to me, is one of the more obvious guys, but having Gronk as a teammate. Like, Gronk was the guy that did everything that Coach Belichick would say we don't want to do and just never got in trouble for it. Like, you get mad at him because he was out somewhere and he starts dancing or acting a fool, and it'd be like the one thing Bill said, all right, this weekend, guys, let's lay low or blah, blah, blah. Gronk would be all over social media, all over some websites, and Bill would come in and he would go to like get on Gronk, and Gronk would give some kind of answer, and Bill would start laughing. The whole room would start cracking up. Like, that was just Gronk. His sound bites, everything about him was always fun in games. He was that one teammate that you knew it would be instant laughs, but you also knew once you got on the field, he was going to be a problem for any team to have to deal with.
2 final questions. Did you ever pick Brady off in practice?
Of course. And I kept the ball when I picked Brady off every single time. Now, I didn't do like Logan did. You know, Logan got to pick off that last ball, and we saw it on social media for like the next 6 months. Yeah. Him telling us how he ended Tom Brady's career in New England. So, nah, man, anytime you pick off Brady, you know that's a special one.
Final question, because Sunday Night Football, you're great. And you're also doing the Westwood One, the broadcast there. Like, what have you learned about this part of the business that maybe you didn't know until you got into it?
Man, being a player, how many times you hear the media is bad, this guy's going to do this, she's going to say that, blah, 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 blah. When you're on the outside and you're sitting in all of these meetings, or you get to meet different people and you get to know them, everybody's best friends with the media, the head coaches, the general managers, the owners. As a player, you don't know that inside information gets leaked. I used to wonder, like, man, who's the guy in the locker room that's talking to these guys, telling them everything? And I didn't know it was the damn team. The team was telling all of the things that they wanted out there. And now that I'm in the media, I see how it works. And as a player, you had no idea these people who are insiders and different things like that, their best friends are your coaches, your head coaches, your position coaches, your GM. So that was something that I felt like when I got into the media, I was like, man, I'm in the inner circle now. I know all of the goods. I know more than I ever knew as a player. So it's definitely different when you think of it as a player in that perspective, and now being done and fully being involved in it.
And we mentioned this before you came on, but if you're listening to this, you can go to McCourtyTwins.com to see all the work that Devin and Jason do for their local communities and charities and how you can be involved. And, dude, you're doing awesome. You're freaking great in all the work that you do, even like going on as guests, but, you know, your Sunday Night Football stuff. So we appreciate the time you gave us. We'll be watching. Keep up the good work, and hopefully we'll talk to you again soon.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on today.
Thanks, Devin.